Welcome back to ADU Adventures, Building in Your Backyard. I'm James, and today we're in Cupertino, California. Now, I could open this episode a few hundred different ways, but let's just be honest about the thing everyone already knows. If you own a home in Cupertino, your backyard is a neighbor to the most famous corporate address on the planet, 1 Apple Park Way, the glass ring that you can glimpse from the foothills. And here's what I find genuinely fascinating. Everybody thinks they know the Apple story. Garage, computers, iPhone, the most valuable company in the world. But today I want to make the case that the most important thing Apple ever built wasn't a device at all. It was an experience. I'm going to argue that Apple's real genius, the thing that actually separated it from every competitor it ever faced, has almost nothing to do with inventing technology. It has everything to do with a question that sounds simple, but that almost nobody in any industry actually asks. What does this person actually need? And how do we make the whole thing just work? And then I'm going to show you why that exact question is the one that matters most when you're thinking about building an ADU in Cupertino. Because the ADU industry today has a lot in common with the computer industry Apple walked into decades ago. And the way forward looks surprisingly similar. So let's dive in. From orchards to a spaceship. Before there was a spaceship, there were orchards. The name Cupertino goes back further than you might think. According to the California Prune Board, and you heard that right, according to their history, the Santa Clara Valley was once the largest fruit producer and packing region in the entire world, with more than 100,000 acres of apricots, cherries, prunes, and yes, apples. The whole valley had a nickname, the Valley of the Heart's Delight. Every spring, the blossoms came in like a snowstorm. Think about that for a second. Before this was Silicon Valley, its claim to fame was what the land itself could produce. Ordinary ground made extraordinary by the people who worked it. Then came the post-war boom. Families poured into California looking for stability and sunshine. And the orchards, acre by acre, became subdivisions. The subdivisions became the suburbs of a brand new industry, one that would eventually give the valley a second name. The fruit trees eventually came down and something else started growing in their place. And in Cupertino, California, one company's story tells the whole arc. In 2010, Hewlett-Packard announced it was leaving its Cupertino campus. Apple bought the land. And as 9to5Mac documented in its history of Apple's campuses, Apple demolished the old HP buildings starting in 2014 and built Apple Park in their place, opening in 2017. Fruit orchards to HP, HP to the Apple spaceship. Same dirt, 3 different eras of value, each one built on top of the last. And here's why I'm telling you this. That pattern, ordinary land becoming extraordinary value, isn't just a Cupertino story. It's the exact position Cupertino homeowners are sitting in right now. According to Zillow's Home Max Index, the average home value in Cupertino is about $3.1 million, up 5.9% over the past year. That's the market telling you something very clearly. The land under your home is some of the most sought-after residential ground in the United States. Every era of this valley has been defined by people who looked at the ground they already had and asked what more it could hold. The orchards asked it, HP asked it, Apple asked it, and it answered with a headquarters that looks like a ring of glass. For homeowners, that question has a very practical modern form. Your lot already holds your home. Could it also hold a place for your parents as they age? Or a launching pad for a kid facing down the housing market? A space that lives better for your family today earns more if you ever choose to rent it, and grows in value for the generation after you. That's the real question. And to answer it well, I want to take a hard look at how our famous neighbor actually built what they built. Because the real lesson isn't the one most people think it is. The experience company. Here's a claim that surprises people the first time they hear it. Apple almost never invented the core technology it became famous for. Let's walk through it, and I promise every piece of this is documented history. Start with the thing that made the Macintosh, the graphical interface, Windows, icons, a mouse. That didn't originate in Cupertino. According to the Computer History Museum, the graphical user interface was developed at Xerox PARC in Palo Alto. And Steve Jobs and a group of Apple engineers visited PARC in December 1979 to see it running on the Xerox Alto. Jobs later said, "It was obvious to me that all computers would work like this someday. Xerox had the technology. Apple made it something an ordinary person could sit down and use." Now, jump ahead to the iPod. Everyone remembers the iPod as the device that changed music. But the MP3 player already existed. As Engadget has chronicled, Diamond Multimedia shipped the Rio PMP300 back in 1998, one of the first portable MP3 players ever sold. That was 3 whole years before Apple entered the market. Apple introduced the iPod on October 23, 2001, and according to Apple's own press release from that day, the pitch was simple: 1,000 songs in your pocket, not a spec sheet, not megabytes, a promise about your life. Same story with the tablet. In category after category, Apple showed up years after the underlying technology existed. So if Apple didn't invent the technology, what did it actually invent? The answer is pretty simple. It invented accountability for the entire experience. Think about what buying a computer felt like before Apple changed it, if you can remember. You bought a beige box from one company, the operating system came from a second company, the peripherals came from a fourth, and when something broke, and something always broke, every one of them pointed at the other 3. The hardware people blamed the software people blamed the drivers, nobody owned the outcome, which means the customer owned the outcome. And the customer was the least equipped person in the entire chain to handle it. Apple's answer was to take responsibility for everything, hardware and software, designed together by one company as one product. If it didn't work, there was exactly one door to knock on, and Apple's name was on it. That's not a technical achievement. That's a promise, a structural promise about who carries the risk. And then, in a move almost everyone predicted would fail, Apple extended that promise to the buying experience itself. According to Macworld's History of Apple Retail, the first 2 Apple stores opened on May 19, 2021 in Tysons Corner, Virginia, and Glendale, California. This was months after the dot-com crash, at a moment when computer retailers were collapsing, and Apple opened stores anyway. Why? Because the stores weren't really about selling boxes. They were about letting people touch the thing, ask questions of someone knowledgeable, and walk out confidently. Jobs understood something the rest of the industry didn't. People don't buy technology. They buy confidence that it will work. The product was never just the device. The product was the certainty. But there's one more piece of this story, and honestly, it's my favorite, because it's the piece that comes directly to what we do. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple in 1997, the company was selling a confusing sprawl of overlapping products. PowerBooks, PowerMacs, Performas, each with 4-digit model numbers nobody could keep straight. And as the technology history site Low End Mac recounts, Jobs' answer was to draw a simple grid: consumer and pro, desktop and portable, 4 quadrants, 4 great products. Everything else got cut. Sit with how radical that was. The conventional wisdom said more choice is better. Jobs bet the company on the opposite idea. Customers don't want infinite options. They want a small number of excellent options curated by people who obsessed over every detail so the customer doesn't have to. That's the real Apple innovation, not the chip, not the screen. The insight that curation done by genuine experts is the premium experience. When every option on the menu is excellent, choosing becomes easy, and you cannot choose wrong. Hold on to that idea, because now we're going to talk about your backyard. And you may be asking yourself what this has to do with my backyard. Well, here's my honest read on the ADU industry today. It looks a lot like the computer industry before Apple fixed it. Think about how most homeowners are told to build an ADU. Go find an architect, then go find a structural engineer, then bid the plans out to contractors, then manage the relationships between all of them, while also dealing with the city. 4 or 5 separate partners, and not one of them accountable for the whole outcome. Sound familiar? That's the beige box era of construction. Technically capable, experientially broken. When the drawings turn out to be unbuildable, the architect points at the contractor. When the bid comes back double what anyone expected, the contractor points out the drawings. And the homeowner, the least equipped person in the chain, is left holding the project together. I've personally talked to homeowners who lived through exactly this process. And here's the phrase I hear again and again. I just wanted someone to be responsible for the whole thing. We've built Acton ADU to be the opposite of that. The longtime listeners know the design-build argument by heart. One team, design and construction together, from the first site visit to the final walkthrough. No surprises isn't a slogan for us. It's the whole operating system. But today I want to talk about the part of the approach that maps directly onto the Apple story, and it's called Build Ready. Here's the idea. Instead of starting every homeowner with a blank page, we start you with a library. More than 100 ADU plan options across different sizes and shapes. So no matter what your Cupertino lot looks like, there's a design that fits your property without having to start from scratch. And alongside the plans, a library of designer-curated interior and exterior packages. So choosing the look and feel of your ADU is easy, and every option on the menu is one our designers already stand behind. Now, I know that some of you may be thinking, because the industry has trained us to think this way, that pre-designed must mean lesser, and custom from scratch must mean premium. I want to push back on that idea, because Apple already proved it backwards. The blank page is where projects go wrong. It's where beautiful drawings turn out to be unbuildable. It's where homeowners drown in thousands of decisions they never wanted to make. Every fixture, every finish, every window, every one a chance to second-guess yourself. Each one a chance for the project to drift. What Jobs understood with the 4-quadrant grid is exactly what we've built in the Build Ready program. When genuine experts do the hard curation up front, designing, refining, and pressure testing every plan until every single one performs, the homeowner gets something better than infinite choice. They get certainty. You get decisions that are easy because every answer is a good one. And you get a home built in the same standard as a traditionally built home, because that's exactly what it is. Same construction, same materials, same craftsmanship. There is no sacrifice in performance or quality. The curation is the quality. And here's the part I want Cupertino homeowners in particular to hear. Lots out here come in all shapes. Corner lots, deep, narrow lots, properties with mature trees you'd never dream of touching. A library of more than 100 plans in different sizes and configurations means that starting point already respects your property instead of fighting it. From there, we tailor to your setbacks, your site, and most importantly, your family. A space designed so your mom can age comfortably, a space a renter would be proud to call home, a space that lives better now and grows in value for whoever comes next. You're still getting a home that's unmistakably yours. You're just choosing from excellence instead of gambling on a blank page. That's what It Just Works looks like when it's made of lumber and light instead of glass and silicon. Now, the heart of it. Let me bring this home because underneath all the history, there is one idea I really want you to carry out of this episode. The question that made Apple wasn't, what can we build? It was, what does this person actually need? And that's the same question at the center of everything we do at Acton ADU. It's the question inside of family integrity planning. Before we ever talk about square footage, we talk about your family. Who's going to live in this space in year 1? Who might live in it in year 15? Is this about keeping your parents close, giving an adult child a real start in the most expensive housing market in the country, building flexibility into a property you plan to hand down? Our founder, Stan Acton, has been asking that question since before it had a name. When he was 10 years old, he broke his father's heirloom mallet, and instead of hiding it, he grabbed a piece of firewood, climbed onto his grandfather's shopsmith lathe, and turned a new one. Work the problem. Respect the craft. Make it right. That instinct became a company, and that company has spent more than 35 years learning what families actually need from the homes they build. Cupertino's whole story is people looking at ordinary ground, and seeing what it could hold. Orchards, HP, Apple, and all of us. Now it's our turn to look at our own backyard the same way. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Whether you're a longtime listener or you found this episode because you searched for ADUs in Cupertino, I'm genuinely glad you're here. If today got you thinking about what's possible on your property, here's the next step. Acton ADU has been building for more than 35 years, and we serve homeowners across California from the Bay Area to LA County. We don't just build ADUs, we build homes that last and legacies that grow. With build-ready ADUs from Acton, we can show you exactly which of our 100-plus floor plans would fit your Cupertino lot and what your options really look like before you commit to anything. So visit us at actonadu.com or call 408-539-1908 for a free consultation anywhere in California. No pressure, just a real conversation about your property and your family. I'm James. This has been ADU Adventures Building in Your Backyard, and I'll see you out there. This episode was sponsored by Acton ADU, the experts in high-quality, long-lasting ADUs. With over 35 years of experience in California, Acton handles everything from design to permits to construction and makes the process seamless for homeowners. If you're thinking about building an ADU, visit actonadu.com or call 408-539-1908 to get started. Thanks for listening to ADU Adventures Building in the Backyard. See you next time.